What's going on YouTube? So one of the most common questions that I ask any developer that I'm interviewing is, what is the difference between an abstract class and an interface? And typically the candidates that are new to object-oriented programming would not know the differences. So let's go over the two types of classes in this video. While I'll be the first person to admit that you will not use both types of classes in every project, however, knowing the differences between the two is essential whenever you're working on a complex project. The point of an abstract class and an interface is to define some kind of logic or structure for a collection of classes. For example, if we are creating a database model, then we know that the model should have a method to fetch data from the database and to store data into the database. If the database model extends an abstract class or implements an interface, then when we use that model inside of a controller, we will know exactly which methods that we have available. Now I know this sounds a little bit weird, but let me explain even further. So what I have presented in front of you is an application that I'm working on. It is still a work in progress, so please ignore any spelling issues or any namespace issue. When I get closer to completion, I'll have all those issues ironed out. So what we have presented in front of us is the Yelp model, and this Yelp model extends the base API model. And the reason why we do that is because the constructor is defined in the base model, and the reason why we did that is because I want to force it in it. There is other models that kind of use this base model, so I wanted to unify the logic together. So in the init, we specify what type of driver we need to use for that model. So for the purpose of this application, we have the Yelp driver implement a bearer auth interface. And the reason why we did that is because in a base model, we're going to detect if the driver is an instance of that interface. And if it is, then we know that we have a method to authenticate the driver. To recap, an interface defines the methods that a model needs to implement, while an abstract class can do the same thing. However, it can have common logic that each children will use. To clarify any misconception, a model does not need to implement an interface and extend an abstract class. The model can either extend an abstract class or implement an interface. So one of the questions that you may be having is, how do I decide which one to use? Should we use an abstract class or should we use an interface? The easy way to decide this is if a method will have identical logic, then we should use an abstract class. But if each method would have different logic for each model, then we should use an interface. So right now, I'm pretty sure the more senior developers are yelling at the monitors because there are way more advanced things that you could do with abstract classes and interfaces. However, I will go over those things in a future video. So until then, leave any questions, comments, concerns, complaints down below. Until then, I will see you guys later. Peace.